Hello everyone, today I'm making a video about what would you call it, the after effects of the SBC passing an amendment that has placed strict limitations on women that were, well, pastors or had the title pastor as their title in the positions of the churches they were in. And although I'm not a part of the SBC, I actually attend a Baptist church, but it's not part of that convention. So it's something that interests me because it's supposedly the largest denomination of evangelicals, of Christians, and I'm interested in like learning about that world, you know. So there has been a lot of talk on Twitter that I've seen related to a list of women that the list was made in order to serve as proof that there are a lot of women with the title of pastor in the churches. And how true is it that all of the women listed in that list are actually a part of the SBC? There's some women that have spoken out saying that, hey, we were being reached out, or we made the list, and we've already asked the SBC to like remove us from their list. We're not a part. We haven't considered ourselves part of the SBC in like years. And so I don't know how reliable that is, first of all, and who's actually going through that list and making sure that there aren't people, there. And I just wonder, like, if there's any room for some legal consequences. So that would be an interesting development if that ends up happening. Who knows? But the thing that I found interesting was that okay, I think like I owe it to my listeners to explain myself a little bit more, because you might not know what I'm talking about like the whole SBC. So it's the Southern Baptist Convention, and it's a denomination. And if you align with, you actually go online, I checked it out, you go online, and if you are someone that goes to church, you can actually go to your pastor and show them this information, and they can see if they would like to join this denomination. And you pretty much have to follow whatever requirements are listed so that you would be able to qualify to join that. And there are benefits for joining them, and I think the requirements are that one of the requirements is that you have to actually give money to the SBC. And so with that money, they have created seminaries, and so churches that are a part of that, the SBC, they get like big discounts if they're what would you call it, church members want to go to that seminary. As far as I've heard, I think that's how it works. Also, there are a lot of churches want to be a part of that because they have a lot of programs related to, for example, missionary programs. So there are a lot of reasons why people would want to join. So they host a convention every year, and every year they vote for a president and all these other positions. And so this year, just a few days ago, was their convention, and it was very controversial. Amazingly enough, it overshadowed the controversy of a lot of abusers having been found, like being a part of these churches, and a lot of them have resigned, stepped down. You could learn all about that. I think Julie Royce has done a really good job reporting about those things, so if you want to learn more about that, you can go check it out. But I haven't followed too closely about that, but I do know that there's talk about how come the SBC didn't try this hard when it comes to making a list of abusers, and why can't they do this? Like, why is it so controversial for us, focusing on making sure that we remove all of the sexually immoral, these abusers? We need to remove these people from the SBC. And it just seems that was totally overshadowed by the warriors, by the fighters. And they do call themselves that. It's not rhetoric, it's not slander. I joined one of their conversations on Twitter Spaces, and they feel that they are the brave men and women that need to fight to keep the SBC being faithful to God, because according to them, complementarianism is what is biblically supported. Complementarianism meaning very basically that women should not be pastors, that they should not be preaching in front of the church. And now this form of complementarianism is very strict about even just using the name pastor. So the amendment that I believe his name is Mike Law. Let me look him up real quick. So if you go to SBC amendment on Twitter, there you will find information about it. And yeah, Pastor Law, that's how he's, yeah, Pastor Mike Law. So yeah, so he created this place and a website, and on that website, that's where he has this document that has hundreds of pages of information specifically about women, that they have a picture of the woman, the church where she works at, the title and the address of her church, which is where she works, obviously, a map also. And I didn't even look too deeply into the list. I was just kind of, I just saw, oh, okay, it's a long list. And yeah, so the controversy, it's really interesting because it also involved not just that amendment. It was being pushed heavily on Twitter by very large platforms. I forget Megan, her last name. It seems to write for the Daily Wire. And people from the, Babylon Bee. Who else? Someone with the last name Wolf. These people are very prominent on Twitter, very political. And so, yeah, it's something that was being pushed a lot, promoted a lot. And that other thing that was so everyone was so interested in this convention in particular. Sorry, there's a helicopter passing over me. Let me see if I can talk over it. So the very well-known author Rick Warren, his church had ordained, I think, 2 women as pastors. And when their new pastor, because Rick Warren retired, the new pastor that was placed, that replaced him, explained, he made a video, and from what I understood, it wasn't necessarily egalitarianism as I understand it, but it could be, I guess. I'm not sure, honestly. What I understood from just kind of hearing it really quickly was that these women were technically still under the male authority of the church as they were being ordained, and they were like, I think they were technically associate pastors. So yeah, so that was at stake. They had been disfellowshipped as a church, and Saddleback Church, that's the church of Rick Warren, they have so many churches. It's not just one, as I thought. And you go to their website and you see all the locations and all the ministries, and they're doing amazing, like, online things, and you could tell they're, yeah. So apparently Rick Warren wanted to try to fight for the women that were also going to be kicked out probably of the SBC if he didn't try to persuade the SBC to be okay with disagreeing with egalitarianism, which says yes, women are called just like men to positions, for example, of being pastors. So just like the SBC is okay with people disagreeing on God about soteriology, you have the Calvinism and the Arminianism debate and all these other views. So why, if egalitarianism and complementarianism is also a secondary issue, why is the SBC coming down hard on this? And so you hear a lot of opinions about it. Well, don't try to change the SBC, just accept that that's how they feel about this topic and go somewhere else. So as predicted even by Rick Warren, he lost his church and another church that was brought to be voted on during that convention. They were disfellowshipped, so they're no longer allowed to be a part of the SBC. And so that was another thing. So it was sad for a lot of women, especially, I think, when we heard those results the next morning. And I found it interesting that the people that were pushing for the amendment, even though it won, they were still complaining about, like, these other things, about how they were being criticized, about how there are people that are more about pushing things on social media than actually praying. And so there was that whole scandal. But then the next scandal that the same people seemed to be very vocal about on Twitter was that, why are egalitarians saying that this public list is wrong, is immoral, is doxing? And that's what I wanted to talk about, really. That's why I came here, and I wanted to read something, and I'm holding this iPad, and it's like hard, but I'm going to try to read a few things. I just feel like there's the only way we can be united as brothers and sisters in Christ is if we land on the truth, even as we disagree on, our secondary issues. But the truth is, let's see, first of all, I want us to look up doxing, okay? The word doxing, because someone that I interviewed on my channel, she retweeted someone that said, hey, this is doxing. And the word doxing means the action or process of searching for and publishing private or identifying information about a particular individual on the internet, typically with malicious intent. And so obviously, it just seems like common sense that if you're a complementarian, a staunch complementarian, obviously you're gonna be like, it's not malicious intent. And if you're an egalitarian, you're gonna be like, yeah, it is, So first of all, let's be aware of our biases here, okay? You have a bias. We all do, okay? So let's read that definition again. The action or process of searching for. That is something that pastor did with his team, I'm assuming. there was an action, there was a process of searching for these churches, for these women, for the men, I'm assuming, that pastor those churches, and publishing. And here's where everyone gets stuck on. They're like, it's only doxing if it's private information. Private information. Well, define private. Was it relatively private before you published it and like retweeted it and like, okay, sure, like that's a little too far there, Susan. It was public. It wasn't private because it was public. It was information you can find online if you really search, right? And then but here's the thing, or it says, or identifying information about a particular individual, which is, this is the definition that fits doxing. Identifying information, okay, about a particular individual on the internet, typically with malicious intent. So there you go. The thing is, we can all agree, yeah, it's identifying information. So you find information online about these women, and you share it online, right? It's a process of sharing the information that's public, because it's one thing for me to share my information in the way that I choose, I want to share it. Obviously, you know that there's people out there that will do things, you always run the risk, right? But when someone else is sharing your information in a way that you are not okay with it, then that's different. And so I am going to argue that it was malicious intent. It was malicious intent. And here's the thing, I know the complementarians are going to say it's not malicious intent because they were out of line with the SBC, because we wanted to pass this amendment so that we can actually like remove these women or remove these churches, because that is the next step. And people in the SBC have been vocal about it. First Rick Warren, and then the rest of the churches. So is that malicious intent, that you want to remove churches like with an amendment? So you are purposefully passing an amendment knowing that this is the way that you're going to remove a lot of churches. Yeah, so here's the thing too, though, that it seems like it's not a big deal, you know, but the thing that you are not aware of is that there are a lot of complementarians that believe that every single woman on that list is a heretic, and I've seen it. I've seen these people say it, is a charlatan. I saw that too. And there's a lot of talk of the complementarians that were pushing this amendment that have been saying we need to fight for, it's like fighting speech, right? And obviously no one is taking it literally. Obviously everyone is probably thinking we need to fight through our actions, through amendments, through, you know, like this legal process in the SBC. But still there is that language, and when you start talking in that way about your opponent, which are the egalitarians within the SBC, then you start to portray these women as the enemy. And so that's the thing. Another very well-known Bible thinker on YouTube has said that, you know, oh, it's just rhetoric, that to say targeting, or, you know, using language like that and causing division or whatever. I forget what the exact words were. But yeah, I mean, let's just accept it. It is targeting. It is targeting. There may be another form of extreme targeting, which is like people with death threats, that YouTubers, that person in particular, he should know better, because I've heard him say that he has gone to the police. I think it was him. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was him, that he's gone to the police and he showed you know, the death threats, the whatever they were, emails or YouTube comments, and they take him to the police and they don't take him seriously. But how scared was he? I wonder how scared he was at home I wonder how scared he was when he would go to his work, when he was walking to his car. I wonder how scared he was for his wife. All of these things. Why? Because we know that we live in a world full of crazy people. Sure, there are good Christian people, but there are also crazy people out there that have and will always use a form of out of context Bible to support their violent behavior or whatnot, and so if you think about it, it's so easy for all of you, all of me, for me to say it's just public information. But no, it's not just public information. Let's think a little deeper. It's not doxing in the sense that look, they shared their home address, which I hope everyone would agree in that at that point. That's wrong. Cross the line, amendment people. But it's the fact that the list is only composed of a certain type of Christian women in particular. So it is targeting, obviously. He targeted all of the women and the men leading the churches with these women as pastors, with the titles of children's pastors, worship pastors. They were targeted. Stop saying they weren't. They were targeted. Okay, you might think target means something else, but to a smaller degree, if you will, grant that, they were targeted in that sense. And also, yeah, when you make that list and you make it like available for like the world and not just for, I don't know, like how that would have been okay. I don't think it would have been okay. I mean, maybe just, I don't even know. I personally disagree completely with the way that, everything about that. So like, you have people out there that see it as, I have a list of women charlatans. And what are they going to do with that information? Are they going to actually like start websites about these women? And are they going to start, I don't know, are they going to do something worse than the list? They're going to harass them. There are going to be people going to their websites and be sending all these emails about, you need to repent, you need to leave your church. I mean, that's harassment. That is harassment. Even if you think that you're right and that what you're saying is true, that's harassment. We have the right and freedom and liberty in Christianity, I'm gonna say like in Jesus' name, to disagree and to follow our conscience as to what we believe the Holy Spirit is leading each and every one of us. And that is at the root of the whole, what they say is the SBC. The SBC is more about dissent than just following like whatever somebody decides the SBC, like you need to fall into this jar, and there's no wiggle space for, I mean, you are strict about egalitarianism right now. What's next? We don't want any Armenians. We only want it to be Calvinism, which was a threat. I remember a few years ago, I've heard things. I've heard provisionists complaining about how that's the case. Hey, the Calvinists are taking over. They're taking over the seminaries. Like, there's hardly any leaders in these seminaries that are not Calvinists. So that's a concern, but yet you turn your back on egalitarianism, because sure, you agree with the Calvinists about complementarianism, but hey, if they were able to pass an amendment right now, who's to say the next convention isn't going to be about that, or the next, right? Once they've successfully eliminated all the women, well, what's the next thing that they say is unbiblical, So, yeah, there's freedom. There's freedom to leave the SBC, which, yeah. And there's freedom to be an egalitarian and to not have to be on a list. There was this, the Bible thinker also mentioned that there's this woman, the one I already mentioned, that is using rhetoric and victim language and whatnot to, like, I don't know, to manipulate people. And he made the same claims about her book, which is just so repulsive. He has been confronted about these things by many egalitarians, and he's just not listening. And I'm concerned for him because something's not right. Something's not right about that. And so, like, you are a very famous YouTuber, over 500,000 subscribers. I don't know how many thousands of Twitter followers. And people will just, like, believe what you say about this person. And from what I understood, I think he blatantly, my guess is that he misspoke, or he didn't do it on purpose, thinking the best of him. But I'm gonna look it up right now. He's saying that this person, this lady, she shared the list herself. And no, what I've seen is that she didn't share it. She commented on it, which I'll go and I'll check, because guess what, brother? I don't know if you did this also, because I did. I sent this person a private message. Apparently that's what we're supposed to do, right? As Christians, approach the person first. And so maybe you did. And I told this person, hey, you know, I wonder if you're considering putting down that old Twitter post that you're being accused of supporting the list that you are condemning now as doxing. And she's being attacked on Twitter because of this. And people are just using that as like, hey, it's not doxing, you know, like to not validate what she's saying, that what she's right about what she's saying. And so what she had said was that this gives her hope. Look at all these SBC women serving as lead pastors. And nowhere is there a comment about her saying that the list is, that there's no problem with the list. She is simply talking about look at the women, which is what she teaches, that egalitarianism is true, is what the Bible teaches. And so she herself did not share the link. What she did do is quote tweet. So unfortunately, whenever all the people that are criticizing her are sharing the link where the tweet where she quoted it, and she did share it in the sense that look at this tweet, but not for the same motivation as to say there's nothing wrong with this tweet, this is not doxing. She made a comment about look at the women. She was celebrating the women that are serving the Lord as pastors. Now this was before the convention, so you can't judge someone for things that, you know, hadn't happened yet. You know, you have to think about the context. She would be encouraged by women being a part of the SBC and being able to be pastors. That would be encouraging for egalitarianists. So I think we need to be more careful, because she did say, I know that isn't point of list, but I'm encouraged. So she's saying, I know that's not the point of the list to celebrate these women, but I'm encouraged. So I don't know, I'm not her, but I could, if I'm trying to think the best of her, I could think, you know, she's trying to make a positive out of something negative. And she didn't comment exactly on the list until now. Now she's saying, now she's talking about the list. So for us to make the assumption of she had no issue with the list, I'd be careful not to slander her, honestly, because you're assuming that she had no issue with sharing the link. And she was fighting this whole day, at least, for people to put down that link. And that's why I asked her, and I told her I'm not pressuring her, but I asked her if she would consider deleting that tweet, because people are spreading that link that is attached to the other person's tweet, and in a sense that is spreading that list. So we're happy that she was happy that she had asked, what are they called on Twitter, Baptist Standard. She had asked them to put the link down because they had it somewhere on their website. And so they announced it 9 hours ago that since Mike Law's list of Southern Baptist churches employing women as pastors has been used by some to harass women and churches named, we have removed the document from our files and no longer will link to it. And so obviously a lot of people are starting to call those guys cowards and all of this. And to me it's like, okay, you call the people that were sharing this and are no longer, they're calling them cowards, and here you are claiming that you guys are not people that would harass other people. Like, you are so emotionally affected by this action of putting down a link to their private, Twitter, which these people only have like less than 5,000 followers. I mean, come on, like anyway, yeah, so I thought that was very dishonest of the Bible thinker to not talk about this issue in a weird way, and to make claims, character claims about this person, and to not fill in his audience. It's deceiving. It's like cliquish. It's like, hey, this person, I think this person did like make his followers know about who this person is. Yeah, he shared like her Twitter. So I think somebody needs to talk to Mike Winger. He has a lot of friends, especially that are egalitarians, I think, and somebody needs to help him, like challenge him on his own bias getting in the way of him actually, he thinks he's doing something good about helping with the rhetoric, but he doesn't even realize that he is contributing to the rhetoric, and I just don't want to, like, I know I did it again, but I've just kind of given up. Like, I don't watch his channel anymore because I don't trust that he's trying not to be biased anymore when it comes to women in ministry. The last thing I tweeted on Twitter is to him. One of the last things I said, because I saw someone commented on Twitter saying, "What is your work address? A photo, map to your workplace, and personal info." And that was in response to the lady, I think her Twitter thing is Meg Basham, and she's pretty much the one that's complaining about the same person as well. And so someone challenged her, like, hey, you give me the same information that you're totally fine with all these other women, like their information being out there. And I commented saying, true, if people defending the list because it's public information are totally okay and see no harm with it being listed, please post all of your own info down at the comments below. Thanks. We will be sharing it to a group of people who believe you are charlatans and wolves. Okay, and then I tagged Mike Winger and I said, please go first. If you atheists who believe what you do is evil might like to know your home address, also known as your workplace, I wonder what they would do with that information. You've received death threats, I'm sure. We couldn't blame the list, of course. And that's in reference to something that he was arguing, saying that if someone actually did something to, like, these women, I mean, can we really blame the list itself? Why should we blame the list and not the actual people that did it? Like, we can't take responsibility. So it frustrates me because I feel like it's common sense, and like literally you SBC people, complementarians won. You won the SBC battle, and now apparently you have grounds for kicking all the other women out. So like, be content with your victory, and just, if people have an opinion about your list, peace, you know, like they can have their opinion. I mean, I think that's not slander, that's not adding to the rhetoric, that's not what's going to convince people to become egalitarians. I mean, the reason people become egalitarians isn't because of rhetoric, it's because they actually do Bible study. I know it's hard for complementarians to believe that they can land on egalitarianism, but you know, it's true. It can happen. So as you can see, the sun has gone down, and I've talked more than I should. Let me know your thoughts. I know a lot of you guys are complementarians, and I'm okay with hearing your thoughts, okay? All right, bye.